Bernard Durkin, delays in development of the town centre, Naas, County Kildare is 4. Have we? Are you taking Brenda Ryan's as well? You're taking 1 and 2. So Minister Canny will be taking 1 and 2. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. For the next 4 minutes, Deputy Ryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Laska Hirlich. I want to welcome Minister Canny into the House to deal with this matter. Minister, I stood in this chamber in November 2012 on this exact same issue. I described the situation then as both critical and severe. But since that event, there have been promises of funding, promises of work, promises of solutions, yet all that has been done has been makeshift barriers paid for and constructed by locals in fear of their lives literally being swept away. Over the last week, we have had high tides and easterly winds. Social media and online news sites showed videos of waves crashing over Clontarf Promenade and dramatic seascapes in Dublin Bay last week. But what failed to get any attention was the further washing away of the dunes and remnants of the broken boardwalk on the Borough Beach in Portrane. The Minister, you may be aware, Portrane is quite near here in the lovely part of Fingal, quite a picturesque part of the Dublin region. There are videos on Facebook which show live and in real time the power of the sea and how close it is getting to the homes and businesses in Portrane. If the situation was critical and severe in 2012, it is nothing short of an emergency now. Minister, I appreciate that funding was made available into 2014 by the OPW for works to protect dunes in the borough of Portrane. The then Minister, Brian Hayes, visited the location to see the destruction of the dunes himself. And I would ask that you would come out yourself next week if possible, Minister Canny. You certainly would love you to see it firsthand, because it would be very helpful to you in coming to some conclusions about the matter. I am outraged that this funding was not drawn down by Fingal County Council. The Fingal County Council would refer to some confusion on this point. I am seeking an urgent meeting with the Council next week to discuss its role in finding a way forward. The residents of the borough are annoyed at what they see as a total lack of interest from either the Council or the Government in their plight. What I am asking from you, Minister, is to take a direct role in protecting the community of the borough in Portrane. I want you to acknowledge the seriousness of the situation and to allocate a senior official to work with Fingal County Council to install urgent measures to deal with the worsening situation in Portrane. I know of no other community in the country which is so close to being breached and essentially being washed away. It cannot be the case that we continue to bang our heads against the brick walls of government or local government to find a solution. We need a direct action, and we need it now. Funding must be found to deal with the situation. We've had studies, we've had plans, and we've had strategies, but we've had no meaningful action, Minister. Minister, the residents have filled 1-ton bags with sand themselves to provide a barrier. They toiled and worked hard on many mornings to fill these bags, knowing all the while that these efforts would be in vain once a serious storm hit the beach and the high tides returned. Those bags have been rendered useless now, Minister. They were breached last week. Dunes and land have been reclaimed by the sea, and there has been no help from the authorities. We need direct action for government, and we need it now. Thank you, Last Year.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for your 4 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to thank Deputy Ryan for raising this important matter in the House. Coastal erosion is a natural and ongoing process which takes place around the entire coastline. Coastal erosion may threaten human life, infrastructure such as roads, and may undermine and cause damage to properties. However, it should be also recognised that coastal erosion also has a beneficial effect to the local environment, such as providing natural nourishment and supply of sediment to adjacent beaches. The primary objective of government policy on coastal protection is to ensure that in areas identified as being at greatest risk of damage or loss of economic assets through coastal erosion or flooding, appropriate and sustainable measures are identified by local authorities to protect those assets, and where such measures are economically justified on cost-benefit grounds and compatible with all required environmental and other statutory requirements, they are implemented subject to the availability of resources. The OPW have undertaken a national assessment of coastal erosion, including erosion rates, under the Irish Coastal Protection Strategy study, and the results of this study have been published on the OPW website. This study has surveyed and assessed the coastal erosion risk along the entire national coastline, and this information is available to all local authorities to enable them to develop appropriate plans and strategies for the sustainable management of the coastline in their counties, including the identification, prioritisation and, subject to available resources, the implementation of coastal protection works both of a structural and non-structural nature. The local authorities may carry out structural protection work using their own resources. If necessary, they may also put forward proposals to the relevant central government departments for funding of appropriate measures depending on the infrastructure or assets under threat. Because intervention within a coastline area may cause problems further along the coast, any proposed intervention measures are best developed in conjunction with the formal coastal erosion risk management study, which has carefully investigated the problem and explored the full range of management options. Portrane was assessed under the Fingal East Meath Flood Risk Assessment Area study as a coastal area of further assessment. The detailed engineering analysis found that no properties were at risk from coastal or fluvial sources in this AFA. Therefore, option assessment was not undertaken, as it is designated an AFA of very low risk in the draft flood risk management plans. The Office of Public Works operates a minor flood mitigation works and coastal protection scheme, under which applications for funding from local authorities are considered up to 500,000. Funding, in each instance, funding for coastal erosion risk management studies may also be applied for under this scheme. Funding of up to 90% of the cost is made available for projects which meet the eligible criteria. Fingal County Council applied for and was approved funding of 57,800 under the scheme in 2012 to carry out a coastal erosion risk management study at Portrane and Rush, which included Borough Beach. The funding was drawn down in 2013 following completion of the study. Following the severe storms of winter 2013-14, total funding of 200,000 was provided by the OPW to Fingal County Council on the government decision to repair works to coastal protection infrastructure, which included projects at Borough Beach. The OPW has published guidelines for coastal erosion risk management measures and funding applications under the minor works schemes available on the website. In conclusion, I can assure the Deputy that the OPW will continue to work with Fingal County Council to address coastal erosion issues in the county over coming years, having regard to the available resources and in the context of the framework for state investment in this area that I have outlined above.
Thank you, Minister. You did certainly very well there on time. I didn't think you'd get through it, but you did. Deputy, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Leslie Hirlich. Minister, I'm absolutely dumbfounded to hear you saying, and I know obviously this has been provided to you, that the areas of low risk and there's no home at risk. That is absolutely not the case. That's why it's important that you should come out and have a look. I feel I'm repeating myself from 4 years ago. The works that have previously been carried out in order to safeguard the sand dunes on this coastline were done in good faith and with the best intentions, but they were not long-term solutions. A comprehensive and possibly cross-departmental approach is required in order to provide the best possible protection for this coastline. We need to ensure that all possible solutions are given consideration and that a long-term solution is put in place. A coastal erosion study was carried out, as you have indicated. Hard and soft engineering solutions were assessed, but no meaningful action was taken and no progress has been made. In fact, it's worse than no progress. It seems things have gone backwards. The clock is ticking on and the tide is moving in. I do not know anyone in the borough who has any faith left in the institutions of the state to protect their homes. The people of Portrane are not just concerned, they are at breaking point. They have witnessed the ongoing erosion of their coastline and can visibly see the dangers they face. They would be appalled at the reply that you read out today, Minister. They do not want their concerns to be dismissed on the basis of negative cost-benefit ratio analysis. The Council say that no money has been forthcoming at national level to fund solutions. I walked Laytown Beach lately, and you can see robust rock-based protective measures in place to deal with what was obviously a similar problem at that location, so it can be done. Most of us look at weather forecasts to decide which coat to wear, or check the times of high tide in order to go fishing. But the community in the borough of Portrane check these forecasts to see if they will have a home the next day, contrary to what your report would say. Are we going to wait until we're dealing with homes disappearing into the sea before we address the issue? Are we going to allow the situation to develop to a point of catastrophic emergency? I hope not. I hope to, finally, I hope there is no policy of managed retreat at play here. This is a very serious matter and needs urgent attention. Minister, this matter must be addressed with the urgency that it deserves.
Thank you for your cooperation. You have 2 minutes, Minister.
I would just want to say to the Deputy, first of all, that there is no, the reply I've given there is factual. The studies were done, money was provided. What I would suggest is that because the local authority and the Office of Public Works are involved in this area here, that I would ask that the local authority meet with the officials of my department and to see what projects can be done. But I suppose, Deputy, what I say to you is that it's okay saying spend money. If a study is done and the cost-benefit analysis is improving, I would have to say that we just cannot spend money nilly-willy. I do appreciate that but if you let me finish, what I would say to you, Deputy, is that if there is a cost-benefit can be met and if properties are at risk, that's part of the cost benefit. And I think what we need to do is that I am, in my experience so far within the department, that if a project is brought forward by the local authority and if it meets the criteria, it will get funding.
Thank you very much.